Hello and welcome once again to Better Than Before, live on Facebook. This is Dave Edelstein here to talk to you about all things to do with mindfulness, relating, connecting, and communicating, and just getting on better in life. As many of you know and have kindly reacted to, and I thank you so much for your participation. My daughter's getting married on Sunday, on Earth Day, which is a big deal for me because, hi Peter. Because I used to work in environmental protection, and these are issues that are still very close to my heart. Hi, David. I'm Michelle. Hello again. And so yes, on Earth Day, which will be an easy anniversary for me to remember, my daughter's getting married. Hi, Brian. And I had some thoughts about this because I do talk so much about connecting and relating and communicating. And my daughter and her boyfriend have a lovely relationship, which I respect very much. Hi, Jude. Hi, Diane. Oh, look at that. And so commenting on how they're doing, they've been together 5 years. So that's one good thing to note. They haven't rushed into this. It's important when one is considering getting married to wait until what is sometimes called the limerence period is over. The limerence period being, hi Kat, the limerence period being that early time in the first up to 3 years of relationship where everything is just perfect. Everything is just wonderful. Everything just glows because there's this biochemical thing going on in your brain that just makes everything perfect and makes your partner perfect, and you are perfect for each other, and everything about them is delightful until that wears off. And then all of a sudden, every incompatibility that you ever experienced is present in this other person, and it's really bruising because you hoped for so much more, and now you seem to have so much less. But really, you do have more because you're actually getting to know the authentic other person. And this is the purpose of love, really, is to learn to know and accept another person in all of their strengths and weaknesses. Hi, Steve. So people get married, and then their marriages sometimes are very difficult. I have known this myself. I have lived this. Marriage can be very, very difficult. And it's not always just an unwillingness to compromise or that, one partner is really awful or this or that. It's just that before, when we were in the limerence period, everything was easy. Everything was simple. It was just wonderful to be with this other person because it was all new. And when that wears off, that's where the real work starts, but it's also where the real love starts. Because you have to really love somebody to accept the imperfect person that he or she is. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. And it's often very painful for those of us who are very acutely aware of our imperfections. We often feel very guilty exposing our imperfections to our spouse. We want to be perfect for them. And so there's this constant sense of failure, which can be reinforced by an angry spouse. But I really don't want to talk so much today about how difficult marriage is. It is difficult. It's a huge challenge. But if you approach it with the right mindset, you really can overcome just about anything. Yes, some people get into marriage for really mentally ill, awful reasons that are very abusive and wrong, and these people should not be married, and sure. But most people mean well most days, and they're doing the best they can, and everybody's in there trying to make this work more or less effectively according to the limits of their own particular imperfections, immaturities, growth needs, problems that they're trying to overcome, because nobody's perfect. But I wanted to really talk about a phrase or an idea, I'm going to celebrate with the bride and groom. In my tradition, there's this idea that celebrating with the bride and groom is a moral obligation, that you have to do this. Well, why would it be hola, Carlos, why would it be a thing? Hi, Steve. Did I say hello to you, Steve, yet? Why would it be a moral obligation to party? And that's an interesting question. It really makes you think, why is it a moral obligation to celebrate with the bride and groom? And I could think of a few reasons. Maybe they're obvious. Maybe I'm not telling you anything you don't know. One reason, I think, is to show the bride and groom that you're there to support them. Not individually saying that, yes, you're right, and the other one is wrong. But you're there to welcome them into the community of committed, married adults upon whom society is built. It's built in the family unit, whatever form that family takes. Whatever form that family takes. Families come in all shapes and sizes today. And you're here celebrating with the bride and groom to tell them that you support whatever form their family takes as long as it works for them. You want them to know real love. You want them to experience the deep experience, past limerence, past falling in love, of being in love, being loving with each other, knowing themselves as loving people. You want to be there to support that, make that happen, help that to happen. You want to be there to lend your perspective. You want to be there to lend a hand. You want to be there to amplify their joys and mute their sadness. Help them find a way to overcome their problems. Not to tell them how to overcome their problems, but to celebrate with them whatever is happening in their marriage. Celebrate with the bride and groom. Once you're married, that doesn't stop you from being the bride and the groom. You could be married 20 years. You could be married 50 years. An emotional moment here. Let me breathe deeply. My parents have been married I don't know, I've lost count. I think they had a big anniversary this year. Let's see, I'm 60. My parents have been married something like 62 years. My father can no longer speak. My father doesn't even know who my mother is anymore. My mother is still very much my father's wife, my father's bride. He is her groom. 62 years later, there they are. Celebrate with the bride and groom. Let them know how much you respect what their relationship is. Celebrate with the bride and groom to remember joy. Wedding days are joyful days. How many days in a person's life achieve the level of joy of their wedding day? Not so many. Not so many. Participate in joy. Fill your life with joy. Celebrate with the bride and groom, and then go home and be joyful. Be joyful the next day too, the day after that, the rest of your life, until the next wedding rolls around and you can remember again, get another infusion of joyfulness, and do that. Hello, corazón. Hola, mi amor. Estoy hablando de matrimonios. Be joyful each day, because you celebrated with the bride and groom. Celebrate with the bride and groom so that you can remember where you came from. Even if your parents were not married, you were born from the biological activities involved. You were born from the connection between two people. Maybe that connection was not a great one. Maybe they never became bride and groom. But at some point, two people came together to produce you. Celebrate with the bride and groom. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget that somehow you were born in love. That this, celebrate with the bride and groom. Remember what love is. And that you are a product of someone's love. Maybe that love was one-sided. Maybe one of your parents loved the other and the other did not. But somebody loved somebody. And here you are. Hola, Lupe. ¿Cómo está? Celebrate with the bride and groom to remember what love is, to remember what love can do, to remember the power of love, to remember that we were all created, that the whole universe was created in love. That's what makes it the most powerful thing in the universe. Love can overcome anger. Love can overcome sadness. Love can overcome fear. Doesn't always. Won't do it without concentrated effort sometimes. But it can. It can. You have to believe it. Celebrate with the bride and groom. It's a moral obligation. And it's a great joy. There's so much to remember. There's so much that matters. Celebrate with the bride and groom. I'm going to. And I'll see you next week. I'll be gone for a few days. Should be back next Wednesday or Thursday. I'll miss you. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like this, share it around. Always welcome to share it around, no matter how emotional I get. Share it around. Let people know I'm here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you again in a few days. Bye now.